Syracuse, New York. D, what's going on?
Everything is good. I'm ready to get going, talk about some college basketball, and get ready for the weekend, man. I missed you, man.
I missed you too. We've had a little bit of a gap here, but today we are coming back in a big way. We've got Richmond Spiders head coach Chris Mooney on the show today. We talked about a bunch of things about his time at Richmond over these last 16 years. He just coached in his 500th game with the Spiders on Wednesday. Talked about the 4-0 start, his golf game, what it's like coaching in 2020 and how being a coach has kind of evolved in the way that you manage your kids and go about the daily routine, not only just in COVID, but just in general in college basketball. And we even talked about his life as a wedding planner at one point, to which Demetris Nichols inquired.
Yes, he gave us some good advice, me being married, you not being married yet, on how to manage our money when we try to make sure that our brides are happy. So that was a great conversation.
Hoops, weddings, spiders. Here it is now. Chris Mooney, the head coach of Richmond. The Richmond Spiders are one of the most interesting teams in college basketball in this early season, off to a 4-0 start, ranked 19th in the country, and now they'll face the West Virginia Mountaineers in a top 20 showdown Sunday, 1 Eastern time on ESPN. It is great to have their head coach, Chris Mooney, on Demetris and a Splash of Fanta. Coach, thanks for taking the time. I'm curious, the expectations were high going into this season as you were picked to win the Atlantic 10. In this 4-0 start, though, what's something that you've learned about your team that you weren't as sure of heading into this year?
Well, yeah, we were picked very high, and we had a great season last year and finished second to Dayton, who was one of the top few teams in the country. And then we lost Nick Sherrod, so we were set to start 5 seniors, 4 of whom had over 1,000 points already. Obviously really rare in this day and age for college basketball. And Nick got hurt about 6-7 weeks ago and is out for the season. So, that's a tremendous blow in every way. You have a guy who's a 5th-year senior who's been around the program. He's a leader. He's very well liked. So all of a sudden, when you have that happen, that's really difficult to just move past, and there are a lot of different things that can affect. And I think what we've been able to do is, in a big way because of Nick and how he's handled everything, but we've been able to kind of dig in a little deeper and compartmentalize, how we feel about that situation and how we feel badly for him, but also work hard and practice and hopefully try to get to be as good as we can. So I'm impressed that we were faced with that adversity so early, but we were still able to play and compete and get better, even while we were felt so badly for Nick.
Coach, you have 3 players, Tyler Burton, Grant Golden, Jacob Gillard, all recorded double-doubles.
Yeah.
Were last week on Wednesday, win over North Iowa. And this is the first time this happened in Richmond basketball in 25 years. What does that tell you about this group or about your team, that group?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I remember we came in after the game and somebody had told me that really seemed, that really was impressive. Those 3 guys are very good players. And, I think, Nathan Kao and Blake Francis are also capable of double-doubles and probably will get 1 or 2 during the course of the season. So it just tells me that we're deep and talented. And we have guys who can do a variety of things. Jacob Gillard had, I think, 11 assists, 1 turnover, and 4 steals. That's really an impressive game, and 5 rebounds. So you're involved in every part of the game if you're doing that kind of thing. And I really appreciate how good those guys are and talented, but then also just how much they know how to play off of one another, how to involve other guys. And the competitiveness overall. So, the win against Northern Iowa was really good. That's a great program. And we needed all of those statistics to help us and have good enough guys to get them.
One of those double-doubles, Tyler Burton with the 21 and 13, a career night for the sophomore. And after the game, you said he's just a great rebounder. What makes him a great rebounder?
Well, a couple things. He's a great athlete, and he's really like a basketball functional athlete. The things he doesn't jump well on his dunks, but then not so well in a crowd. I mean, he can jump and fly in there when there's a loose ball or a ball to be had. So his athleticism is very functional. He has a nose for the ball and an instinct for where the ball's going. Most importantly, as with most great rebounders, he just has the desire to get the ball. When he goes up, he's rarely just batting at the ball. He's getting the ball. And I think that desire shows up all the time when he's out there playing. So, he's the best rebounder we've had. And I think he'll get a lot of them during the course of his career, but really has a great nose for the ball and a tremendous desire to get the ball.
And having him and Grant Golden, what do you think that gives you? Does that give you like a dimension out there on the floor with their length? Yeah,
for sure. We start the two guards we have are small, both 6 feet or so. And maybe
I love those two guys, man. They play with.
I appreciate that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, you're right. But our front court is actually is good size, and Grant's legitimate 6'10". The forwards are 6'7", 6'8", long, athletic. So while we're undersized in the backcourt, and we'll take that because of those guys are so good, we have a pretty good size front line, and that length that does play a part in everything. And when we played Kentucky, you can really notice their length, which is so exceptional, and it makes everything a little bit harder for the other team. Every simple entry pass or pass to the wing, that really makes it harder. And we have some pretty good length too, and need to make that show up as much as we can. And we try to have a balance where the smaller guards are putting pressure on the passer and the ball handler, and the longer front court guys are maybe deflecting passes or in passing lanes and making it harder to complete passes.
Chris, when did you know? Because last year you went 24-7. When did you know that the group that you have could really be special?
Actually 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, Grant Golden and Jacob Gilliard, as sophomores were named to the all-conference team. That's pretty rare in any conference. There are 15 spots, and 2 sophomores made it. Blake Francis was sitting out because he had transferred from Wagner. Nick Sherrod was hurt and out for the season. And Nathan Kao had a season where he averaged, like 13 and 4. And so I had said, I think that was going to be the best class that Richmond's ever had, if nothing were to change. Of course, now Nick being out has thrown a wrench into that particular class and our depth. But I did think that group could be really special. Blake is incredibly competitive, a really, really good player, led our team in scoring last year. And then those other guys are just so experienced, talented, competitive. I really thought we'd have a great group as soon as we had them together and it was disjointed because they all weren't playing together as sophomores. As soon as we had them together, I thought this group could be very, very special.
Turning our attention to West Virginia on Sunday, what is your focus heading into that matchup?
Well, probably with everybody, the rebounding. They're just such an exceptional offensive rebounding team. They play so hard. We played them maybe 7 or 8 years ago when it was Press Virginia. We played them in a tournament out in Las Vegas. And, those practices are so hard because you're playing against the pressure and we're putting 6 and 7 guys out there. And, they're so aggressive and tough. This is the same mindset and the same effort demanded by Coach Huggins, but just in an area more toward rebounding. Their half-court defense is excellent and tough.
They crash.
Yeah, but they crash the glass. And it just makes it so difficult. When they're so committed to that, they're so conditioned to do that and well coached. And then they have the physicality and the athletic ability to do it. That's a hard thing. So I think, for us, competing on the backboard is going to be the most important part of our defensive game plan.
Was this always on the schedule, or is this something that got put together?
Yeah, great question. So no, this game, when they made the decision to go from start the season to push it back from November 10th to the 25th, that affected, I think, over 900 college basketball games. That was, in my opinion, a really questionable decision. I didn't really see the benefits because, if anything, we needed more time for makeup dates, for games that were going to be lost inevitably. And when that happened, everybody's schedule was turned upside down. So immediately you lost 4 games. But which 4 would you lose? Would they be from a tournament? Would they be from a game that was scheduled on that date? And so probably the next day, I think, on the scheduling boards and the 2 assistants spoke, and we agreed to the game the next day. So we were thrilled because we were going to lose some games. And then to be able to plug in a great team and a tremendous program was really beneficial to us.
Well, let's stick with the Mountaineers here, because this is a fascinating matchup, but you're facing a fascinating coach.
Yeah.
You have a Bob Huggins story.
Tell us.
Yeah. So, I've gotten to know Coach Huggins a little bit at a couple of coaching clinics. We've spoken back to back at a couple of the Nike coaching clinics.
Sure.
And so oftentimes we'll go out to dinner afterwards. A couple of the speakers will go out to dinner. And to be honest with you, he is so soft-spoken and interesting and has such tremendous recall of his amazing career that's the part that sticks out to me the most. I wish it was a great story that I could tell my buddies over a few beers, but really just more how soft-spoken and how much he talks about his former players, his family, his career, in such a appreciative, wise way. I mean, it's really always has struck me, and I've always been so impressed with how hard his teams play, number one, and how much he cares about the guys and their decisions and their lives afterwards. It really is, because he's been around so long and so successful, and he's funny and he shoots from the hip. There's an idea about him, and I don't know if that's right or wrong, but my experience with him has been like just a quintessential college basketball coach who has done it with really trying to connect with his players and care for his players, and then be very demanding of his players.
And that's the key. I think from an ex-player, when you get a coach that knows that they care about you, and they really care about you, not just on the court, but off the court, it just makes players like me and guys that you coach run through the wall for you. And it's such a good feeling. And I think both ways, because players want to trust their coaches, and coaches want to trust their players.
I totally agree. And I think that it's always been like that. I'm old enough to where, a lot of the coaches were more in the Bobby Knight mold, and it was so demanding. And coaches kind of had a little bit more freedom to say anything they wanted to say. And I think that was more, while they were saying some things that were tough to hear or mean, I think it was also how interactions worked back then, maybe between adults and kids. I think now where, coaches are more sensitive to what they're going to say and sensitive to the players' reactions. But I still think that you're right. I think that then and now it's, what's the level of care, between these two people. And when a coach can show over the course of time that he's going to put his players first and he's going to care about them and do whatever he can, you are going to get maximum effort from your players. And, I think that's when it's, that's what it's really about. It's not about the highlights or Instagram or anything like that. That's what it's really about, those relationships.
So I have a personal question, because I've been coached. All my coaches were tough coaches. They yelled, they screamed, they cursed. And that's how I reacted. So for me personally, if I had a coach that was sensitive to my needs and, patted me on the back every time, I don't think I would play up to my potential. How do you and other coaches make that transition, living in the world that we're living in today, from being in your face basketball to, hey, let's keep trying type of.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Demetris. I'm just started learning how to play golf.
Yeah.
And the golf pro who's giving me lessons, named Adam Smith, he's amazing. But he's so patient and kind. And I told him, I said, listen, I really prefer if you just were cursing at me.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
No?
Just tell me, but I will say this. I think the key is the honesty. So whether you're screaming at a guy and it's colorful language, telling him he's not trying hard enough, back in the day, that's valuable back in the day. I think today, you might not be saying it as aggressively or with so many curse words, but you're still being honest and you're saying, you're not trying hard enough. Here are some examples of you not doing well enough. You must do better. And so that removes some of the, nastiness of the language. But it still gets the message across that, look, there's a certain standard here that's been set by all of us that we need to meet. And so, now I think yelling is still, pretty fashionable. I think the language has been toned down a little bit, but I think the honesty is the most important part.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Just fascinating stuff. And I can understand why you would want your golf coach to be a little bit more. How's your game?
Terrible. But I literally never played. I'm about 2 months in. And, I just think if he said, he said, like, keep your,
like,
keep your hands straight. I think I'd respond a little bit better.
Best golfer in the Atlantic 10 out of the coaches.
That's a good question. So since I haven't played, I don't really know. I'd have to probably say, man, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if I would assume Bob McKillop, but I
was going to say, I was going to vote Bob McKillop. That guy looks like you could put him in the Masters with the starting, or, with any group for that matter, and he would just fit right. If you were casually walking the course, you would say Bob fits right on the tour. For sure. No doubt about it. Bob's probably 2 under at the turn. Chris, let's look at just the career that you've had. And I think this story's fascinating. Reading up on you is that you start back in Pennsylvania, Beaver College, now Arcadia University, 98 to 2000, and you're actually coaching part-time because you're also an event coordinator, planning different events and weddings. So what was it like event coordinating and any stories being Chris Mooney, the wedding planner?
So there are a lot of stories. So I had been a high school coach for 3 years, and then the job opened at Beaver College, which was not too far from the high school I was coaching at. So I got the job, but it was part-time. They had this event coordinator position on campus available that I also applied for and got. And when I was in college, I worked in the event office in the summers. So I had a little bit of, it's hard to call it experience, from being a college worker, but had a little bit of experience and was familiar with it. And the job was basically to get outside groups to use the university, athletic facilities, meeting spaces, and things like that. Well, at Arcadia University, they have a castle on campus. The original building at campus was a legitimate castle. And it was a dorm, the second 2 floors, but the first floor had castle rooms. And so we rented it out we used it for on-campus meetings, but in the summer and over breaks, we would use it for weddings. And so, here I would be meeting with brides or brides-to-be, choosing, this is, if you know any brides-to-be, it's a pretty important day for them. I'm 25 years old, coming from basketball practice in my high tops and basketball shorts, showing them around, the place they're going to be married. And it's usually them and their mom, and, talking about how unique the space is and where you could put the DJ. And so just imagining that, like, that poor bride to be expecting a real person to, show them what's going on. I'm 25, never hosted a party or anything like that. And I'm talking about what could make their perfect wedding night is funny to reflect on. And it was hard work because, the summer winter we were busy with basketball. Summer I was busy with, the entire campus being filled with, cheerleading camp, a couple of weddings over the weekend, an academic conference, using the facility. So they were really long days and nights, and it was an office of one. So it was really a challenging job, but it got me to be a college coach, and that was what was most important to me.
So I'm married, but my wife and I never had an official wedding. But I know eventually she's going to want that, that dream wedding. So I need some advice. Money having a wedding. What do I do? Talk to me.
Okay, so that's a good question. Well, you could try to have it now and then just blame all the restrictions on the fact that
that's all we got. 10 people. That's all we got.
And it sounds like you're willing to plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, no, I would say that one thing would be to, some of these historical sites or, college or museums, they have wedding opportunities or meeting opportunities that might be a little bit cheaper than your more traditional venues. So that would be my word of advice for you.
Appreciate that, Coach. I'm definitely going to tell my wife.
Yeah.
I'm 25 and I'm not married, and we'll see whenever that happens. But no planning here.
No rush, John.
Let's turn to the sport in general. You were paused due to COVID-19, and it wasn't even due to a positive test, as you've said. What was that process like?
Very frustrating, and I know that there are so many things going on in the world and tragic things, and and so I only speak to our situation. We're getting tested 3 and 4 times per week, and we've really encouraged the guys. It's been a more challenging semester for all college students, where maybe they couldn't go back to campus, or maybe on campus there were a lot of restrictions and things that are just very, very different. And we came back from Lexington, had 3 positive tests of staff members, and then so we were tested 4 times, I believe, the previous week, all negative, and we tested those individuals the next 3 days, and they had 3 successive negative tests. And but in Virginia, that doesn't qualify as a false positive. So we were trying to apply the Saban rule, basically, that 3 negatives would overrule a positive, but that wasn't the case. So incredibly frustrating because those 3 didn't have symptoms. They had 3 negative tests. In fact, they had 7 out of 8 negative tests. And then the close contacts, of which we had 5 players, have to go and quarantine in a room for the day. This isn't a quarantine where they get out for 2 hours for practice or get out and go run around, or that's really difficult. And because of the time crunch we're in with the schedule, we agreed to a game with Wofford on Monday and only had 1 day of practice. And so, again, it's not 1 day of practice after finals where guys are in and up and around and sneak into the gym for a half hour for some shooting. This was in your room, somebody bringing you food. That's really, really challenging and difficult. And from a mental alertness and just how you're looking at things, that's difficult to reconcile that these were probably not real positives and you're stuck in a room. Again, that doesn't speak to what's going on around the country and people losing their lives and people being very sick. But for our situation, that was very frustrating.
Speaking of what's going around the country, Coach K made some comments about guys' their physical and mental health with this whole COVID thing, fear of the unknown. What do you make of, or what is your reaction to his comments?
Well, I would say, all of us respect and admire Coach K, more than anyone. And he may be the single greatest coach in team sport history, certainly college basketball. my view would be that the best thing for the emotional and mental health of college basketball players is the opportunity to pursue their passion. And there's been an incredible amount of money and effort that has gone into providing the opportunity for these guys to play. And, all the schools, are losing a tremendous amount of money because of no fans, and putting that much more money into the programs because of all the testing and protocols. So that has been a tremendous investment by all the schools and by the colleges and everyone. And it's mainly so that these guys can pursue their passion. And I think that gives you the best chance of being a well-rounded and emotionally satisfied person. And so, that's what I would say. I think that the hardest time we all had was when we were shut down in the spring and summer. And the best time we've had is when we were able to come back and start to play basketball. So that would be my reaction to it.
Chris, off of that point, you brought up the frustration of not having a positive test and going through that process. It becomes that much harder to report or call a game, et cetera, when you're not at a shoot-around or not in the roots of the situation. You are a coach who's living this 24/7, 365, basically. I'm just curious, what is the thing that's a misconception from the outside looking in that you think as a coach it's important to almost correct that misunderstanding, if there is a misunderstanding that kind of gets you to think that's not really how it is, or that's not what we were thinking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the overall, how could I say, the guidebook on the protocols is lengthy, and it's really, I have never, when I played college basketball, so I feel I have a good idea of the responsibilities that the guys have and how many things they have to do. And, we practiced on Christmas night twice when I was in college, and long practices. And so I understand how much guys put into it. I also understand the rewards that you get, especially the higher level you go, and how, the interest that you have, the recognition that you can get, the opportunity that gets you we didn't have quite the platform, but what they say the guys have now, but that recognition. So there are a lot of pluses. There's also a lot of challenges. And I think these added challenges is a lot for the players to do, and just how well the schools and players are handling them. Rather than saying, hey guys, tomorrow we don't have class, we're going to sleep in, and then we're going to come down for some rehab and things like that. You might be, hey, the testing company's here from 8 to 8:30. We're not sleeping in. Let's get up. Let's have an earlier day. So I think, and that's all the time, everything is disrupted to a certain extent because of protocols, because of testing, the game's changing on the fly, and the guys, resiliency and just their sense of purpose and what they're doing to make sure this happens is really impressive.
Chris, you just coached in your 500th game at Richmond against Northern Iowa. Why has Richmond been home?
Why has Richmond been home?
Home for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Well, it's a great place. We have a great school and a beautiful part of the world. There's so many positives about it. We've just moved into a gorgeous practice facility. We have a great arena. But really the people that have been here. We have two boys that are 11 and 8. When they were younger, my wife would drive up. Somebody would help the boys out of the car. Another person would go park the car for her so she could go in the easiest way. They set up a little Nerf hoop basket in the hallway behind our bench so that my boys and their buddies could play during the game. That to me has been, just how caring people are, how supportive of my family and our program they are. That's difficult to find. And, there is pressure to have good teams and pressure to win games like there are at every place. But there's a certain sense of community and family here that have really been very important to my wife and myself.
All right, Coach, rapid fire. The toughest player you've ever coached?
Toughest player I've ever coached. Great question. Probably Kendall Anthony, who was a great player for us, another small guard, maybe 5'7". He was as
hard, Coach.
Yeah, I know. Had over 1,900 points.
Nice.
The toughest. I'll tell you what. He's the best student we've had. The toughest player. He worked the hardest. Back down from no one. He literally was a guy who stood out among his peers. Guys are always joking, and he literally was so impressive that he stood out even to his peers in real time.
Biggest celebrity you've ever met?
Well, now that's before coming on with you two guys, right?
There you go. Demetris and the Splash of Fanta, baby.
It was before planning Demetris' wedding. Right.
Boy, that's a good question. I would probably say, God, that's a great question. Oh, Jerry Rice. We were out in actually the Bay Area. He was coming off a golf course, came right up, introduced himself to myself and my sons, and was even more impressive than you could imagine.
Favorite meal, Coach?
Probably chicken parmesan. Pretty tough to top that for me.
Nice.
We're in Richmond. Where's the place to go out for dinner?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Tavern is a place right up the street that we've been to a couple of million times since we've been here. Always incredibly fresh food, great service, really good people.
All right, here's a big one. Best concert you've ever been to?
Oh, well, I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. So
I promise you, I was going to say that. I don't know why, but I was like, maybe Pearl Jam. Yeah, that sounds about it.
I don't have a great, I don't have, now you don't have CDs or anything like that, but my CD collection would have been low and they would have been all Pearl Jam. I've seen them a bunch of times. They were in Charlottesville a few years ago and put on a great show.
What is your message to the Richmond Spider fans? Even though they're not at the game, but they're there in spirit watching the games on TV, and I'm pretty sure that they're proud of what you guys have done thus far. What is your message to the fans?
Yeah, probably just as soon as we can have fans, make sure we're there. Before that, just cheer hard and spread the word because, that's probably the most frustrating thing. We knew we had a great team coming in and we'd love to share that. And, when we got back from the Kentucky trip, we had a nice group of fans waiting to meet the bus on campus. That's really nice, especially, during this particular time. To just keep rooting us on and keep spreading the word and God willing, we'll be together in the Robins Center at some point this season.
Chris, we really appreciate the time and best of luck against West Virginia. What a game on Sunday. Just great for college basketball, 1 Eastern time, ESPN, the Spiders and the Mountaineers. Good luck going forward and thanks again.
Good luck,
Thank you guys. Great to see you.
Take care.
Just a great conversation with Coach Mooney about all things Richmond basketball and beyond. And I just get the sense, Demetris, that he is so comfortable with this group of guys and has known for a while that this could be possible. Now it's coming to fruition.
Man, look, he's been there for a long time. This is, like you said, this is his 500th win. He has a tradition. He has a philosophy.
It's 500th game.
Oh, I'm sorry.
500th game. Well, no, it was a 3 take. I just want you to be right so that we can, not – I'm just looking out for you. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Great stuff there from Chris Mooney. You just get the sense that he is so comfortable with what he's done and his group, and he's known for some time that they could be at this point this good, this relevant nationally.
He has a foundation. He has a core. He has a philosophy. He's been there for a very, very long time. This is his 500th game. He knows his players know what he wants, and he knows what the players that he wants to recruit and the style of play that he wants to play. This team didn't even come into the season ranked, and they had to prove themselves all over again playing against Kentucky. Then everybody else was like, okay, well, this team's pretty good. All right, let's rank them. But this team's experienced. They're mature. They brought back 10 upperclassmen and 5 grad guys. This team can flat out play.
Well, I'll tell you what, I saw them last year in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. They played Wisconsin, a Wisconsin team who now, up until a loss to Marquette, was ranked in the top 5 of the country. Mm-hmm. And they beat Wisconsin in every facet. They beat them by 10, 62-52. I thought it was a great performance defensively. That's the thing with this Richmond team. They have 5 players averaging in double figures, but they defend so well, and that's a credit to Mooney. And I thought when they beat Wisconsin last year, they were flying under the radar at that point, and they weren't flying under the radar at the end of the season. They had 24 wins. It was one of the best turnarounds from 2018-19 to 2019-20 of any college basketball team in the country. And entering this year, it's one thing to actually have expectations. You've been on teams that people expect to be good. It's another thing to manage those and actually turn them from good to great. And now, they are a serious Elite Eight, Final Four type dark horse of a team.
For sure. And we talk about them playing West Virginia. Jacob Gillard and Blake Francis, one of the two of the best players in the A-10 conference. They might be small, but they play with a lot of heart. And fans love that. Coaches love that. Gillard averages 4 steals per game. That's ridiculous. So I think Miles McBride and West Virginia, they're going to have to take care of the ball because these 2 guards will take the ball from you and they will run in transition. Don't forget about Grant Golden, who can score inside and out. He's probably the second best passer on the team, averaging 15 points per game.
Well, you got Derek Culver and Oscar Tshiebwe to deal with, and Chris Mooney said that was the priority here in this matchup, keep West Virginia off the glass. Because if you allow them to get extra opportunities, they can capitalize. And I think what West Virginia's gotten from Taz Sherman is interesting. I mean, he's shooting over 50% from three-point territory. He's given them a boost off the bench. He's now their 3rd leading scorer as things stand today. So for the Mountaineers, they are primed against this Richmond team because they have great size and have the ability to rebound the basketball. But that's the thing. When you think of a mid-major typically that's pretty strong, you think of guard play. You just brought up a couple of those guards. But how about the fact that Richmond's able to employ a couple of bigs, not only Golden, but Tyler Burton, who just comes off that 21-13 performance. This is a fascinating matchup on Sunday afternoon. It's great for the sport of college basketball. I know it's a football Sunday, but this is a standalone game. It's an ESPN game. I'm excited for this one, and I think that it's another opportunity. Here's the great thing about this game. Richmond, if you win the game, you to me are going in the top 15. You should be hovering near the top 10. Exactly. If you lose the game, I don't think there should be much movement in you at all. You're going to Morgantown. If West Virginia wins, it only helps their stock. This is why scheduling is so important in college basketball. And I know this year it's hard, but these 2 teams agreed to this game. They figured out a way to make it work. They got a really nice TV window, kind of a standalone game on a Sunday. I love it. I love everything about it. And Richmond and West Virginia, the battle on the glass should be exciting. Richmond's defense against West Virginia's offense, Bob Huggins against Chris Mooney. I love this matchup. I think it's going to be the game, one of the games of the weekend. I have another one to watch out for coming up here. But this should be a tight game between 2 teams that are really playing well. It's not just a rankings thing. It's 2 teams. West Virginia lost to Gonzaga, but there's no shame in that at all. They play pretty well.
Exactly. So speaking of West Virginia, they have a great front court. Oscar Tshiebwe, double machine. Also, the leading scorer and rebounder of the team, Derek Crover, who averaged in 15 and 10. Those 2 guys average 20 boards per game. Miles Bridges. So we talked about Miles McBride running that team, averaging 4 assists per game. he may be the best three-point shooter on that team. And you have two guys, like you mentioned, Taz McSherman and Sean McNeil, who went from averaging 5 points last year to 10 and 11 points this year. This game is going to be fun. With Richmond's Princeton-style offense, with West Virginia's in-your-face type of defense, these two teams are not going to back down from one another. I expect Richmond to force West Virginia to shoot a lot of three balls because West Virginia can't really shoot the ball really, really well. But on the other side, I expect West Virginia to crash the boards. Richmond only averages 34 rebounds per game. So I see this game going to the wire. I did have in my notes West Virginia beating them with more plays at the end. But because we spoke to Chris Mooney a couple minutes ago, I'm going with the Spiders making more plays down the stretch versus West Virginia.
Well, it's a toss-up type of matchup. We'll see what happens. It really could go either way. I think West Virginia wins this game. I'll go on the flip side, but I don't think it's a bad thing for Richmond at all. I just think that West Virginia's ability to rebound the basketball, they don't need the three ball. I mean, they're only shooting the three 31% on the year. It hasn't been good, but they've showed that they can skin a cat in different ways. So we'll see what happens. Should be a pretty good game. And
Richmond is a lot more deeper than West Virginia, though. You know, they're deeper. So let's say 2 out of 5 guys for West Virginia get in foul trouble. That changes the whole game. So we'll see. We'll see. Like we talked about, this is going to be a really good game with great guards, great bigs, and it's going to be competitive all the way to the end, I think.
Let's get into Nichols Dimers. Big Ten ACC Challenge was this week. We saw some other interesting non-conference games. We got some league games coming up this weekend. So Nichols Dimers, Demetris, your teams of the week.
So my teams of the week, I got Iowa. I got Illinois. Those two teams have been playing consistent. They are ranked a certain way because they're playing that way. Iowa did a great job a couple of days ago. What surprised me about Iowa when they played North Carolina was they didn't wait on Luka Garza to get going. Other guys stepped up, made big plays. The 6'1" senior Jordan Bohannon, 24 points, 7 for 16 from the field, and also Joe's Wieskamp. This guy can make it to the next level. I think he can be a good D3 guy that can play defense, but also knock down big shots for an NBA team. Iowa made it hard for North Carolina to get in their offensive sets. They made North Carolina look average. They outplayed them. They outworked them. Even though Iowa can't really take it to the basket, they were going to the basket a little bit, swinging the ball, getting wide open shots. And that, and like things like that, when you gain confidence in the early stages of a game, it's hard for a team to take that confidence away. And by the time North Carolina got warmed up in the second half, it was too late.
Yeah, and Iowa's offense is just electric. People have concerns about their defense, but Iowa essentially has 7 starting players because of the fact that Jack Nunge and, as you said, Jordan Bohannon were both banged up last year. Iowa's primed, and they're living up to their billing, and they just did that against a good North Carolina team, but they just were flat out better, and offensively they're so difficult to stop. With Illinois, Duke is clearly out of sorts. They should be playing basketball, but it's up to them to make the decision that they've made. And if Duke would like to opt out of the season, they're welcome to do it. It's not the NCAA's decision. It's up to institutions and up to conferences. Nate Oates made his comments. There's some merit to those comments. And I think that for Mike Krzyzewski to say that at being home for Christmas and all that stuff, that his players aren't going to be home for Christmas because they have to come back for Christmas because they're going to be playing after that date. So, if I'm a player, I want to play as many games. You played. Right now, you get a whole lot more out of games than any practice.
Exactly. And usually during the season, you're probably in school or on campus practicing. There's really times where guys get able to go home for vacation or go home for Christmas or go home for Thanksgiving. Guys have to play. So I understand what Coach K is trying to express, the fear of the unknown, COVID tests, teams backing out, guys are not getting the reps, but everybody's going through it.
Yep.
Everyone's going through the same problems. But back to Illinois, this team knows their role. Ayo Dusamu is the captain of the ship. He runs the offense, and they have a defensive line in Coffee Cogburn who just blocks everything. He had a double-double last game with 5 blocks. And they have a bunch of other mature guys and young guys that know their roles that shoot threes. This team knows exactly what they want to do. They're shooting 63% from the three-point line, even though they didn't take a lot of threes. But shooting that high, that tells you that they make the right plays. They turn down good shots to get great shots.
They had 6 players in double figures against Duke.
That's impressive.
And Ayo Dosunmu is an NBA draft lottery pick. 18 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. He is doing everything for them. But what gets lost in the equation is Trent Frazier's role for this team. Defensively is strong. He can hit the three, was 2 for 3 from 3 in this win. He was in double figures. Frazier is that guy that doesn't get as much attention as Dosunmu and Cockburn, but he's just as important. And defensively, he's made Brad Underwood's team a better team. Brad Underwood has adapted defensively, and as a result, Illinois has benefited. They only allowed 68 points to Duke. Duke is out of sorts. Duke is young. They're unproven. They can't score the ball consistently. Their half-court offense, like, I knew that Illinois would give Duke a test offensively. I knew that Duke's offense coming in had some issues.
Yeah.
But Duke was pulling up for 15 to 17 footers. They were pulling up for the shots that you really shouldn't take.
You know why? Because they couldn't get to the basket. Because mature players playing against younger players who know how to play. And back to what you're saying about Illinois and their offensive threats, the most dangerous play in basketball is pick and roll basketball. When you have a guy like Dosunmu and a big fella like Cockburn who can pick and roll and finish above the rim and dunk on your team, it turns into pick your poison basketball. And that's what they do in the last 5 minutes of the game. If the game is close, they go into that pick and roll. The big guy rolls. So now they have 2 options. They have the roller or they have the guy who's helping from the corner, so a wide open shot. So they have a great formula that's working for them.
I'm going to give you some of my teams of the week here. How about San Diego State? They go to Arizona State, they go to Tempe, and they beat them. And this is another great win for the Aztecs. Brian Dutcher just does such a good job with that program. And I thought that San Diego State just out-toughed Arizona State. It was a great win for the Aztecs. They have the formula once again to be a team that could make the second weekend the NCAA tournament. They're that good. Shackle was their star on Thursday night. Fantastic win for the Aztecs. And I'm going to give you a couple others. How about Pepperdine beating Cal? A really nice result. Another result for the West Coast Conference, which looks like a 2, maybe even 3-bid league in the NCAA tournament. We've talked about San Francisco on this show. Pepperdine now making a statement. Gonzaga, of course. St. Mary's is there. I mean, this league is loaded, and those teams are all doing some pretty good things. BYU's another. And then there's Xavier. You know, Xavier is 7-0. Now, they just went on pause due to COVID-19, which is really, really brutal for them. Their Saturday game against Providence is off. It was supposed to be the Big East opener. Could have been a really interesting game. Tuesday game against Seton Hall is off. But for the Musketeers, they were the first team to 7-0. They beat Oklahoma 99-77 on Wednesday. They hit a program record 19 threes.
Yeah.
And that's the difference with Xavier this year.
4 guys average double-digit scoring. That's
and it's Paul Scruggs and Zach Fremantle, but they brought in a Gardner-Webb transfer, Nate Johnson, who's giving them a boost from the perimeter, has provided a a different dimension. And Travis Steele told me earlier this week he's the steady Eddie of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a winner. He really is. He's a winner. You get Adam Kunkel eligible, a Belmont transfer who was an all-conference honoree last year, was going to head to the NCAA tournament with Belmont. Kobe Jones, a freshman, who's come right in and has made an impact. Dwan Odom, a freshman point guard, who's done a really nice job. This Xavier team is dangerous. They were only picked 7th in the Big East, but they're 7-0. They're going to be on pause, but I really like their upside. Zach Fremantle has taken a huge leap. He's one of the most improved players in the country.
He's 44% from the three. That's impressive. That is
about 5 from there.
What I love about Xavier is that they share the ball. They average 21 assists per game, and they take good shots. They know what they're doing out there. They have a bunch of older guys, but with a mix of young guys that know how to play. But I have a question to ask you. Because this team is 7-0, should they be ranked? Even though they haven't played a ranked team yet, should they be ranked, being 7-0?
Well, I think that they should not be ranked yet. The win over Cincinnati, although impressive, Cincinnati appears to be retooling. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't appear that they're the same Cincinnati teams that we're used to. Yeah. Oklahoma, nice win. Had they beaten Providence on Saturday, I would have said, let's look at them. I think they would have definitely gotten more votes and definitely could have been on the doorstep. Mm-hmm. They don't have a great win, and they have narrowly escaped a couple of what would have been bad losses. But I think, to your point, they're sharing the basketball with the assists. Mm-hmm. And because you brought it up, I think it's I have to look again at their average here. I've got it up here. Yeah, 20.7 per game. This was a team that did not share the basketball well last year. They did not. You had some egos. You had some issues as a group. They didn't mesh. This Xavier team is meshing. And it's because Scruggs is a senior, and he's taking on the role of facilitate. His assist-to-turnover ratio last year was 1-1. Now it's over 3-1. He's clearly taken that leap as a senior who's going to pass the ball and get it to his playmakers. Fremantle, legit jump. Johnson, great shooter. Kiki Tandy, a sophomore, scoring type of boost. Xavier last year offensively was dreadful at times. This year they have different options. They're a little bit deeper, and they have found a chemistry that's working well in Cincinnati thus far. Would I rank them? No. Not right now, but close.
I think for them to get ranked, they would have to beat Creighton a couple of weeks from now. If they beat Creighton,
that would get them ranked.
They can be a top 20, 21, 22 type of team. I think if they beat Creighton, that solidifies them as a legit top 25 team. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Playing 7 games, they're getting a lot of reps. They're getting a lot of – and the game of basketball is about feeling like you're in rhythm, feeling good about yourself, feeling good about the plays and the passes, knowing how to rebound, the timing. Having 7 games under your belt is an advantage nowadays with this whole COVID thing going on. So we'll see when they play Creighton if they could take that leap and really make some noise.
So I find it fascinating here. I have a player of the week. My player of the week, Zach Fremantle, is really good this week. Yeah. But how about Justin Champagnie with 20 and 20 for Pittsburgh in their win over Northwestern? The Panthers are trailing by 5 in this game with a minute left. They're down by multiple possessions with a minute left. They find a way to end up winning this game in amazing fashion. Champagnie with what was a game-winning dunk. Just fantastic the way that they won this game. 5 seconds left on the clock. For Jeff Capel's team, a confidence booster that they needed. This Pittsburgh team had lost to St. Francis, PA, earlier in the season. And so Justin Champagnie, brother of a St. John sophomore, twin brother, Julian Champagnie, who's averaging 22 and 7 for the Red Storm. A couple of twins who are doing big-time things at Pitt and St. John's. But for Justin, 20 and 20. Wow.
If you had a twin to pick, if you had someone to pick out of those two, who would you pick?
Justin right now. He's on a different level.
He can really shoot the ball. He's 6'6", 200 pounds, averages a double-double. He actually is shorter than his brother, and he averages more rebounds than his brother. So I really think he can play the 3 and the 4. I think Julian is more of a 4/5, but he has a great ability to go right, loving to finishing off his right hand, and he can pick and pop. Both brothers are really, really impressive. They kind of remind me of the Morris twins from Kansas.
I want to give you this stat. This is unbelievable. Justin Champagnie of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
4th major conference player in the last 25 years to have 20-plus points and 20-plus rebounds in a regulation game while also playing all 40 minutes of that game. Wow. The others, Tim Duncan.
Wow.
Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons.
He's special. And I know there's a lot of other college basketball players that are getting the attention because they're ranked, their teams are ranked, the team is pretty good. But Justin Champagnie he has a potential to get better and better and better and really become a star.
All right, Nichols Dimers, final one, game of the weekend.
Game of the weekend. So we agreed on this. Texas, 13th ranked Texas versus number 2 Baylor. Listen, even though Baylor is number 2 in the country, they beat teams by 20. They just beat Illinois a couple of weeks ago. They have 5 guys that can score double figures, led by Jared Butler. They play defense, but I have an upset.
Oh!
Yes, I have an upset. I think Texas is hungry. They have something to prove. This is a rival game, same conference. The way Texas plays, they have a 3-headed monster, Andrew Jones, Matt Coleman, Courtney Ramsey, their go-to guy. These guys make plays, and they lock up. They're going to force Baylor to play one-on-one basketball to get to the basket. Baylor doesn't really go to the basket and get to the free throw line as they should, being number 2 in the country. I want to see Brooke Cunningham and Greg Brown come out of their shell. They haven't really had a big game yet.
Yeah.
So, I also like Jericho Sims.
I do too. I like him a lot. He is a powerhouse inside. I mean, he is a Tonka truck.
But Jones is a leaper. Jones can leap, dunk on you, and he can shoot the 3 in your face.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think Baylor does a lot of the things Texas does, but even better. Now, I think that Texas's backcourt is a little bit deeper than Baylor's. It just is when you have Courtney Ramey and you've got Matt Coleman and you've got Andrew Jones all being able to take you off the dribble, all being able to create for others. And I like this Texas team. I think that Texas is, in fact, back. They did lose to Villanova. Villanova's one of the 5 best teams in America. I still would go with Baylor in this game. Jonathan Chamois-Chachua is just such an incredible horse in the paint. He is giving them a difference. Freddie Gillespie gone. They needed Chamois-Chachua to be that type of player, and he's been that type of player. So I look at Baylor and their physicality, and I think that they're able to exceed what Texas does on that end of the floor, on the defensive end of the floor. I like the Bears a little bit more still in this match, but I think Jared Butler is the best player on the floor. I think he can neutralize Coleman or Ramey, whoever they put Butler on. I will stick with the Bears and their ability to defend. I would have loved to see Gonzaga Baylor. We didn't get that. Hopefully it still happens. It's planned to happen. But this is a great matchup between 2 teams that are balanced out, that have tons of star power, and that defend. But I like Baylor a little bit more in this spot than I do Texas. That being said, there's no question that Texas has showed us in that win over North Carolina in the Maui title game, they eked one out. And Shaka Smart, in a crucial year, has gotten off to the right kind of start. We'll see. I would love the upset for college basketball's sake because it would be an upset in my mind. Baylor, I think, is a national championship team. I think Texas is more of an Elite Eight type team for a ceiling, but we'll see what happens.
I like Jared Butler, but I think Texas guards are going to slow him down.
Okay.
Andrew Jones, Coleman, and Ramsey, I think they're going to slow Butler down. Like I said, if the Longhorns can get to the free throw line and get easy points, easy transition points, get to the free throw line, I think they have a chance to win. So if they could force Baylor to get about 75 points, because they average, I think, like 90. Baylor averaged about 90 points per game. So if they can get to about 70, 75 points, I think that plays into Texas's favor.
Yeah.
Texas gets to the free throw line. Texas's guards, they get to the line, man, and they make their free throws. If Baylor doesn't get to the free throw line, if they have an off shooting night and they don't get to the free throw line, I have an upset. We'll see.
All right. Well, you know what?
Who's your player of the week?
We did game picks and during the Maui Invitational, and I think you were right on a good. I picked Indiana against Texas. I was wrong on that one. You've been right on, I think, the majority, and you were definitely. I'm trying to hide with my.
Like 3-3, maybe scores maybe like 5-3 me right now. It's all right though. It's all good.
5-3. Well, let's see who wins. Let's see who wins. Texas, Baylor. You've also got Richmond. I've got West Virginia. The setup's there for a real fun weekend.
Who's your player of the week?
I told you, Justin Champagny.
Oh, it was. Okay. Well, let me show you mine. And it's going to break my heart to say this because this guy that I'm about to mention plays for Rutgers.
Oh, boy.
Which went up.
I know who it is.
My Syracuse Orangeman. Speaking of, before I get to my player of the week, I want to talk about Syracuse a little bit. I think this team is going to grow towards the end of the season. I think when Buddy Boeheim comes back, they have a good guard in Alan Griffin, the Illinois transfer. I think he can take –
He's very good.
He's very, very good. I think he can replace the Elijah Hughes of the world. He's capable of getting 20 points per night. But they also have two freshmen. Gary Richmond from Brooklyn, New York, 6'7". He can play a 1, 2, and 3. And they have a kid named Woody Newton that's going to blossom. So I think Syracuse is in a really good spot. I think towards the end of the season and next year, I think they're really going to take a really nice leap in the ACC conference. But my player of the week is Ron Harper Jr.
Yeah,
You don't know who his father is. He played over 10 years in the NBA, played with Michael Jordan, and when he wasn't playing against Michael Jordan, he was guarding Michael Jordan when he was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But his son, Ron Harper Jr., 6'6", NBA-ready body, 245 pounds. He can finish in transition, and he shoots the ball. I love guys that can really shoot the three ball. He shoots 46% from the three-point line. And lastly, he plays with energy.
Sure.
And you think about guys, why they play, right? So everybody has a reason on why they play. This guy, he's undersized. His father's probably a millionaire. Obviously, I don't know the situation, but he has nothing to really care about. But he plays with a chip on his shoulder. Like, he has, like, the Dennis Rodman type of motor offensively, though. Like, he wants to score, but he's efficient. He's smart. He finishes his transition. He shoots a three. He plays with energy, and he gives his team that energy that they need. The only reason why Rutgers is ranked is because of Ron Harper Jr. He's a star, and I think they can upset a lot of teams in the Big Ten Conference.
Well, I'll tell you what, this Rutgers team showed earlier this week that it doesn't have to be the Geo Baker show late in a game for them to win. They can win in different ways, and they were down in this game by 3 with 5:38 on the clock. And Ron Harper Jr. did not let up, and they got a couple of really nice contributions on top of him. I thought that Jacob Young played really well down the stretch in this game and delivered for them time and again. He had a double-double in this game and was great at facilitating in that backcourt. So for Rutgers to get that from Young and for Harper to lead the way in the scoring column, Harper has had to evolve his offensive game. In fact, the book was out on him earlier in his career about his jump shot being a little suspect. He's evolved in that category. He's taken a leap offensively. I thought Rutgers showed a lot of poise down the stretch in that game against Syracuse, poise that Syracuse does not have at this stage of the season. And Rutgers doesn't – Geo Baker is their best player. But the fact that he was sidelined, that Caleb McConnell was sidelined, and they were still able to win this game and win it really with flying colors down the stretch, Rutgers is going to slow you down offensively. They're a team that's going to take you out of your offense and make you work for what you get. So I look at the Scarlet Knights. I love the way they defend, but now what I'm seeing is they have different abilities in terms of scoring, and it's more than just Baker, who's been Mr. Clutch. But I liken it to Seton Hall, oddly enough, a fellow New Jersey team last year. Miles Powell went through a little injury problem and then struggled a little bit for the Pirates. But as a result, other guys had to step up.
Yeah.
Quincy McKnight, Romaro Gill, Jared Roden, Rutgers, Harper, Young. They have different guys that can deliver for them. And I think that really bodes well. I like this Rutgers team quite a bit. Miles Johnson being another. I forgot about Miles Johnson, who had a double-double in this game. And Rutgers just manhandled Syracuse on the glass. So the Scarlet Knights have the makeup of a team that I don't think it'll be upsets in the Big Ten. Like, I think they're a team that can be top 5 in the Big Ten and will be top 5 in the Big Ten.
Possibly, yeah. They play the right way. They know their DNA. They know that if they don't play defense, they're not going to be in the game. So their defense is the first, second, and maybe third option. I think offense comes last because their defense turns into good offense. But I really like Harper Jr. I love his energy. I love seeing young players playing with fire, with a chip on his shoulder. And it's even harder now that there's no fans in the stands. So you have to create your own energy and play a certain way to get that edge, and they play with edge. But it was just such a great moment to watch because it felt like an old Big East game, Syracuse versus Rutgers. That was their first win versus Syracuse in about 13 years, maybe.
Yeah, it was the first win over Syracuse since 2003.
2003. So it was a good not a rivalry game. I mean, like some people call it a rivalry. Me going to Syracuse, I don't think it's a rivalry game. But it was just good to watch old Big East basketball. You can tell that Syracuse competed. They fought to the end, but Rutgers just made more plays the last 4 minutes, and they made shots, dunks, and layups. And, but I think both teams are going to be successful this year. Syracuse is going to make a leap towards the end of the year. I think guys are going to need those reps, but I'm just happy that college basketball is back, and I hope it stays for the rest of the season.
It's going to stay. We're going to have a season. This season's not going anywhere. It would be dumb to pause now. It would be dumb. What's going to change from now until next month? You've started. You got to keep it rolling. I mean, that's just my belief. I think that the kids want to play. I think it's worse on mental health if they're not playing. And I think that if you pause right now, what's actually going to change from now until 4 or 5 weeks from now? Try to continue to practice the protocols. When a team goes on pause, they go on pause. Adapt your schedule and forge on, because I think that's best for kids' mental health. It's best for the situation. And at this juncture, you've started your season. The bed is the bed. Get in it and let's ride. Let's ride.
Because these guys, basketball is life. These guys want to make it to the next level. These guys want to go to the NBA or go to Europe and play. And if you pause basketball right now, it would just be devastating, just to, like you said, like the mental part of it. It's like, wait, so I can't even get to the next level because of what's going on in this world, this COVID thing. Obviously, this COVID thing is very, very serious, but it's just, this is a hard time, especially for young men, because obviously you go to college for education, but they also go to college to perform and play basketball, play the game that they love every single night. So I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, I am too. West Virginia, Richmond, Texas, and Baylor should be a lot of fun. He is Demetris Nichols. I'm John Fanta. We're at the Field of 68 on Twitter. Download, subscribe. Let us know what you think of the pod. Let us know if you have a guest request. I'm at John_Fanta. D, where can we find you on Twitter?
Nichols_Demetris.
Nichols_Demetris at the Field of 68. Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster on almost every day with your best bets, with your picks for games. We got a lot going on between Robbie Hummel and Jeff and Christie's Court, our new women's show. We just added a couple of shows this week. You got Carolina podcast and the Duke guys were breaking it down last week, and just pretty much everything under the sun. Gonzaga, I've really enjoyed some of the fun stuff with Dan Dickow and company. Yeah. We got you covered. Field of 68 on Twitter. That's another one in the books here of Demetris and a Splash of Fanta. Thanks again to Chris Mooney, the Richmond head coach, for joining us. D, good to see you. Have a great weekend. And this has been Demetris and a Splash of Fanta.
Good to see you, partner. Take care.